Hello, everyone, and welcome to the last session of MMC Tuesdays. For those of you who are just joining us today, my name is Vasuki Rao, and I will be your host and MC. And I'm actually just going to get right into it and introduce our first speaker for today, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Everise, and his name is Chris Greenough. Today, he'll be presenting on a decade of fluid identity. So let me tell you a little bit about Chris. Over the past decade, Chris's award-winning strategies have helped enterprises think differently about CX in today's digital world. According to Chris, Everise is building the leading next-generation BPO for customer experiences. He says they are reinventing the industry as the first BPO to offer a comprehensive line of smart home, AI, IoT, and software product-focused solutions, including in-house proprietary AI solutions. Chris has won multiple awards, including an Effie, Mumbrella's Campaign of the Year, and Malaysia's D Awards Grand Prix, and has been a judge of both the Malaysian and APAC Effie Awards. So, Chris, with all that said, off to you whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you, Vasuki, and happy Tuesday to all of you. Here today to talk about fluid identity and what that means for marketers over the next decade. So when I think about fluid identity, I kind of go back to what the original concept of the internet was. It was originally created to share ideas more easily with the world. But as we've evolved and as we've kind of evolved our use of it, what we found is we kind of just use it more and more to share things about ourselves. And this is, we've very quickly moved from being a species who kind of swap spaces with ourselves, and as well as actually doing that digitally through, face swap apps. I mean, if you look at in 2016, the face swap app actually was launched and became one of the top 2 apps on the iOS store. And I don't think it's inconsequential that in 2017, this technology existed to do the, face swap surgery on the youngest ever person in the United States at the age of 21. The fact that these things are kind of converging and how, they're coming together is not inconsequential. What makes it more fascinating is that we're members of a very exclusive group of animals that can recognize their own face in a mirror. Us, Asian elephants, magpies and dolphins are actually some of the only other animals who can do that. And yet here we are kind of, playing with ourselves and our faces and not sure about, what that's going to entail over the long term. Of course, there are amazing benefits to that. Katie Stubblefield, got a face out of it, but there's also consequences in terms of, how that's affecting self-identity, self-worth, and how we think about ourselves. So I think these are the types of conversations we're going to have, and as marketers, we're going to have to think about over the next decade, and really think beyond the hype and how we're going to apply that. So today, I kind of want to talk about a few things that might kickstart some conversations in your companies, and you as marketers can get involved in it. One is, what is synthetic media? And 2, in the world of synthetic media, where do deep fakes sit and how should I prepare for them as a marketer? 3 is, what's a Vocaloid and how will this impact my influencer marketing? And lastly, some thought starters on what this means for digital marketing and what that means for brand storytelling over the long haul. Let's take a look at first what synthetic media is. In our kind of race to feed our insatiable appetite for content, there's been a lot of money being poured into creating more content for less, and being able to create Hollywood level production for a fraction of the cost. Now, a great example of how far we've come over the last 5 years is with The Irishman as a case study. In 2015, Martin Scorsese set out to ambitiously de-age De Niro, Pacino, and Pesci. He used a custom 3-rig camera and essentially $250 million worth of budget to de-age them using a model over, the shoot and then the editing process. When the movie was released on Netflix in 2019, the movie was critically acclaimed, but there was a lot of and so on about how good the de-aging process was. But almost immediately after it was released, deepfakes came out that were created by fans using open source software that drastically improved on the process. So what was Martin Scorsese's most expensive and ambitious project ever very quickly turned into something that, anyone with a kind of a computer, a decent knowledge of AI and computer vision technology could then create and create their own model to de-age them. So, this has a lot of implications, not just for entertainment content production, but for marketers and how they might want to create content, and for agencies as well in their role in being production companies. If you can create more and more for less, if you're, especially if you're around creating content at a production agency, these essentially Hollywood is these tools are kind of democratizing Hollywood style production. So marketers do need to be prepared for that. And The Irishman's a great example of how we can do that. But there's also some things on the other side that marketers need to be prepared for as well. And that is, what is a deep fake and how those are kind of the bad things about it. I think the best definition I've seen as a deep fake, you saw in the last scroll that, the Irishman content were called deep fakes. I don't agree that that's necessarily a deep fake. I think Nina Schick, who's the author of Infocalypse, which is a great read if you haven't read it, she defined the difference between synthetic media and deepfake as essentially something that's been created with the purpose to miss or disinform people. So it's all about the intent behind what that synthetic media is being used for. And the interesting thing about that is deepfakes are doubling every 6 months. One report from Sensity.ai reports that there is as many as 50,000 deepfakes on the internet right now. But very recently, Facebook just launched a training database that was open source in their effort to kind of detect deepfakes, a training database of about 100,000. So there's 50,000, they say 100,000. Moral of the story is they're increasing at an exponential rate as the technology makes them easier and easier to produce. Now, the obvious problem is that these are being used to create distrust in populations and erode our trust primarily in institutions and people. They've already been used to discredit journalists. There was one used against Mark Zuckerberg last year. They're widely thought to be used in the last US election and very likely in this one. But actually where we see most of them being used, as in most cases, is where the money is. They're being used largely in entertainment still, and not as much in government institutions yet. But you can see how quickly this could unravel. And I think as marketers, we need to be prepared with the playbook if our companies or the CEOs or our leaders have, accusations or things put against them, either by a deep fake or whatnot. Because in a world of distrust, I think building trust is really going to be the first line of defense. Although this is a technology problem, it's really a human solution that's going to come to that. So as marketers, we need to be building trust with our customers and building a brand that people can trust, so that if these types of things happen, that it's more easily believed that what is real, and we have a kind of a similar sense of what the true reality is. The irony, of course, too, is that in the same breath as Facebook, here you see a quote, Facebook saying they're not an issue, they're also creating applications in, like Instagram and whatnot, that are making it easier and easier for people to create deepfakes and to create this kind of these kinds of experiences. So what's going to happen is it's just going to be an arms race between who can detect more and then who can create faster. So at the end of the day, technology won't be the ones that kind of solve this or deal with this. It's still going to go down to foundational, I think, brand building and trust building with your audience, and having a really strong PR playbook that has these proof points against it. I think you also have to before you jump into any of how you use these for campaigns and whatnot, how you use some of these applications if you want to create your own face filters and whatnot, I think you have to think too really long and hard about whether they're trendy or buzzworthy, or whether they're actually doing something to build upon your brand. Are they instilling self-confidence in people, or are they, is there, the potential that this could go sideways? I think playing with self-identity and playing with people's the self-identity is a lot larger ethical issue than you might once you start scratching below the surface. Now, what this kind of leads to as we kind of unravel is if we can do this, and as we can create deepfakes for people, how can we use them in a great way? So one of the most interesting things that's happened is how we're using and how it's entering the influencer and kind of celebrity side of things, how we're using this technology to create and synthesize, personalities and people that people love. If you've ever seen the movie The Congress, with starring Robin Wright, that's kind of eerily where we're heading to right now, because at the end of the day, it's cheaper to produce and synthesize a celebrity than it is to get them in the studio and continually get them to do these things. So a great parallel to think about is, when Nike Plus launched, and they added the feature where you could get celebrity athletes to talk inside your head and congratulate and motivate you around every milestone. That took a lot of work. Now imagine you could synthesize those voices and you could personalize all of those communications without needing them to do that, and get them in a studio to record that. And that's exactly what, Alexa's done with Samuel L. Jackson. They've partnered and they synthesize his voice with their NLU platform. So you can essentially talk and, have all these phrases. And they just launched another upgrade to it with over 30,000 phrases. Can you imagine getting somebody in a room and recording 30,000 phrases? It would be insane. So the potential for scaling these types of experiences is incredible. Now, not all celebrity and endorsement are sanctioned. There's a YouTuber called Vocal Synthesis who takes celebrities and often dead presidents in the US and then has them recite other songs. For example, he has President George Bush do the lyrics to 50 Cent's Into Club. It's quite funny. But he's also received a lot of legal letters from, Jay-Z's label and others to take them down. So there's this starting to be blurred line around what is IP, who gets to own the rights of somebody's, self and voice, and of course the ethical quandaries here are obvious, and we don't quite have a legal framework around this either. So as marketers, we have to be aware of that and also be more well versed in how this could impact over a longer time frame. And further delving into some of the ethical quandaries about this is, if we can do this with celebrities who are alive, could or should we do this with influencers who aren't? And the first real test of that's going to be with the movie that's being launched on Veterans Day on November 11th, called Finding Jack, starring James Dean. Their family or state is okay with the movie so far, but a lot of people have accused the producers of puppeteering the dead. Meanwhile, on the other side, they're saying they couldn't find an actor of his caliber to play the specific role or character that they were thinking about, and he was the only one that could do it. Now, it doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on. Again, there are clearly issues and conversations that need to be had, and a lot of thought that needs to put on is this right? And is this, more importantly, in terms of marketing, is this right for your brand? But at the end of the day, the opportunities are endless. And for marketers, I think the opportunity to scale very personalized brand experiences using influencers is undeniable, because you'll be able to do it at the fraction of the cost and do it at a such more immersive level. I think there's also, I see in the future over the next decade, this opportunity also could possibly work, for CEOs. A lot of times founder CEOs are the influencer brand the kind of influencer for a company. Imagine synthesizing them and having them, be part of a larger holistic experience where you can talk to them when you speak to customer support, you're talking to them in your retail scenario. And this kind of virtual assistant or real person is following you everywhere and giving and kind of being part of a larger kind of ecosystem of a brand experience. But of course, on the other side, there are challenges to that. And how do you kind of limit what these things say? Because even, text synthesis, not to get too off topic, but even text synthesis, the future of copywriting, I think, is also slightly, underwater, where the AIs are getting much, much better at synthesizing text. So you'll be able to not only generate voice, but generate phrases and whatnot as they go on. So over the long term, marketers need to increase their fluency in what these technologies mean, how they can use them. More importantly, what are the kind of ethical and legal concerns that might have with the brand? Now, I think what only then follows too then is, if you're thinking about doing this with your own brand and, does Samuel L. Jackson want to say this or not say this, and creating all of those, there's a lot of legal hurdles. Maybe, and as this happens, the cost of doing this with celebrities and influencers will probably increase, because they'll understand that over the long term, they've essentially giving up the rights to themselves. So what will probably naturally happen, of course, is more and more brands will create their own influencers, and they'll create a synthetic influencer for themselves that is perfectly shaped around the persona and storytelling that they want. And the cost of doing so will be much less, and the scale will be much bigger. Good examples of that already happening are Little Michaela, who was a project launched in 2016 and now has 2.8 million followers on Instagram. She's becoming a pop star. She's already got music videos on YouTube with over 20 million views. And she was a minor part in 2019's Coachella. Then even in Asia, we have kind of a Vocaloid called Hatsune Miku. She's quite big in Japan, and she's growing, but she's growing a global audience as well. She was slated to be on stage with Rage Against the Machine in 2020's Coachella before, of course, it was canceled because of the pandemic. And even closer to home, in places like Singapore, there's a synthetic fashion influencer called Ava that just was launched as well. So this is something that's happening globally. This is something that I think some people see as a great, advertising channel, and they're gonna, and more interestingly, the people who are creating these are creating them because they feel like they want to give voice to their audience in ways that maybe they might be muzzled or, constrained if they had to lend it to somebody else, and they can actually speak their true mind. So it's very, very interesting. But finally, this isn't just happening digitally. For example, as of now, Ava, Lil Michaela, those are still completely virtual experiences. But further down the line, this is definitely going to happen in the physical realm as well too. And the first interesting example of that is around how Hollywood production companies behind Free Willy and all of the animal movies are now using those robotics and that innovation in robotics to create lifelike, cruelty-free theme parks for people to go to. And I guess the question, again, that we have to ask ourselves is, just because it's not real doesn't mean the experience isn't real. Children will still get to experience the joy of watching a dolphin do flips and whatnot, and they get to experience all that you would in a theme park, except it's not real. So you can see how this can extend to the types of synthetic influencers you use into retail settings, how this could bring in holographics and further down the line. So that's why this is really, how do you see your brand playing in this over 10 years? Because this is happening, regardless of what you kind of may personally think about this. I think the interesting main part to think about is that brands really are bots, or brands are still personas or stories. None of the foundational stuff about brand building is gone. It's just how the stories and how we tell them are very different. I mean, Google and Amazon have already proven that, seamless experiences matter. And I think over the next decade, the traditional notion of what a brand is will kind of be supplanted by it will become the pure interface that customers interact with. And those interfaces will ultimately be personas who kind of follow us and are with us everywhere. Now, this may sound slightly dystopian, and it may, may cause you to sit and ponder, but I think what also is important to note is that there's undercurrents going on the other side of that as well. And as technology increases our ability to create and experiment with different forms of media and parallel identities, and kind of further splitting ourselves and who we are in different medias, there's going to be a growing segment of people who may reject that or understand that technology is threatening this and maybe kind of want to ground themselves in a sort of reality. So I think it's important to note that just because everything is digital, there's a difference between digital media and digital kind of marketing and a digital, or at least a digitally centric or technologically centric brand experience. I think a great example of that is last year, the Adidas sports brand and global media director, Simon Peel, admitted that Adidas had gone too far into performance marketing. They had gone too far into trying to advertise and just do pure performance digital marketing. And that they should have been doing more brand building. So I think, and that timing that he's admitting this is not accidental either. If you've watched The Social Dilemma, or kind of seeing the fact that Google just got hit by the largest antitrust movement since Microsoft in 1998, or that iOS 14 just launched with a lot more privacy settings, there's kind of a undercurrent of big tech being under fire, and also people being more conscious about the kinds of data security and privacy that they have and how they're giving it up. So what this means, I think, to marketers is that, again, the foundations of good marketing and brand experiences aren't going away with technology. You still need to focus on building great brand experiences that are maybe enabled by technology, but they're not specifically purely at a performance or digital marketing level. And that, especially with us being trapped in our homes, there's still a lot of merit to creating physical interactions with customers, and kind of would also say that it's likely that direct mail will probably have a pickup over the next year as well too. But all of these things go to show that and reinforce the theme that despite technology rapidly increasing and changing the way we think about ourselves and what media is, that again, the foundations of brand building are the same, and telling stories and telling compelling stories is what makes that happen. Whether it's using real or synthetic media, whether it's using a real or synthetic dolphin, how people feel when they interact with your story and with your brand, that should be the main output that you're kind of measuring and building these things around. That's kind of, I think, my thought on what it is, and there's a lot more to dig in there. If you're curious, I think some of the resources that I use to look into this, and if you're curious to learn more, there's a great movie, The Congress, if you haven't seen that talks about these concepts. The book Infocalypse is quite good. Making Sense, a podcast with Sam Harris, he interviews Nina Schick, where it goes into the threat and opportunities with deepfakes. There's a lot of research out there too. If you haven't seen the research, the website, thispersondoesnotexist.com, I think it's fascinating because you essentially use an AI to create a non-real person every time that's indistinguishable to your eye. That person that you will see is not a real person at all. So the technologies here, this isn't fantasy, this isn't something that we need to think about in 10 years from now. This is already happening, and you need to think about it now because the implications are going to get magnified over the next 10 years. Anyways, thank you, Marketing Meg, for having me here, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you, Chris. After that presentation, I know there's bound to be a lot of questions, so feel free to send them in via the comment section. In the meantime, we'll be taking a 5-minute screen break, and when we come back, I'll be having a one-on-one conversation with the head of sports from Astro, Choong, and we will be discussing all things esports. So I'll see you again in 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. If you've just tuned in, welcome to the last day of MMC Tuesdays. In a couple of seconds, I will actually be having a conversation with the head of sports for Astro, Choong, whom I'll be referring to as CK, and we'll be discussing esports and the opportunities that lie within this relatively new arena that is transforming online gaming into a spectator sport. For those of you who have joined us on the second MMC Tuesdays, you might have caught Eugene Lee from McDonald's, who shared his thoughts and insights on the concept of if you don't get it, don't get into it. So one part of his presentation focused on esports and the importance of truly understanding it instead of jumping on it as the next shiny thing. So conveniently, CK today will be laying it down for those of you who have been considering venturing into the esports industry to further expand your business reach. So whether you're a marketeer or an advertiser, by the end of the session, you will hopefully walk away with a much better perspective on how brands can score with esports. And so CK in particular was instrumental in developing Astro's sports services into one of the top sports propositions in ASEAN. CK also spearheaded EGG Network, a dedicated 24/7 esports channel for ASEAN, which is also a 360 marketing platform, engaging esports fans, talents, sponsors, game developers, and publishers through tournaments, events, and social media. So without further ado, I would like to ask CK to join us so we can get this going. Hi, CK.
Hi,
How are you?
Vasuki.
How are
I'm
you?
good. How are you?
Not too bad. Are you ready to talk about esports and marketing?
Yes, let's go.
Okay. So I'm going to jump right into it, and hopefully this conversation is a good start for those who are tuning in. So esports is essentially becoming a mass consumption form of entertainment, right? And just off the bat, what are the kinds of opportunities that brands have to invest in considering this?
Let me just give you a background first of how we got into esports. Astro is also like any of the other brands out there, and we were not sure of esports when it first started. So this was about 5 years ago. How we started is actually quite an interesting story. There was like an online petition for us to show the international, one of the richest esport event in the world. I think up to today, I think the prize pool that time was $17 million US. And the thing was, it's all crowdfunded. That still amazes me until today. So there was this online petition to ask Astro to broadcast this tournament called the International. It's a Dota 2 event, and it features the best teams and players in the world. So I think there's about 4,000 to 5,000 petitions online, and then I put on my head of sports hat in Astro and said, what is this esport events that a lot of people are talking to? So we thought, why don't we give it a try? And then we didn't expect the feedback and the comments from the younger fans to be so positive. Say, wow, I can't believe Astro is showing the International. Never would I thought I'd get to see this on big screen in HD with my friends, and it just went on from there. And then it's a bit difficult for us to schedule this in the first place because esport is a very extensive event in terms of its length of the competition. When we first showed the International, it was like about 10 hours a day. So we started with that. We look at the ratings, very good ratings, and then we said, hey, this one actually has some legs. Why don't we do the next event? The next event we did was League of Legends events. League of Legends Worlds, huge following too, and huge ratings. So we decided, okay, we should do this. That was 5 years ago. We came out with a 24/7 channel called EGG Network. The channel now is across 8 different countries in Southeast Asia, including Australia. We're in Malaysia, Brunei, Singapore, Thailand, Myanmar, Indonesia, Philippines, and Indonesia, as well as in Australia. So from the day we started as a TV channel or broadcast channel, now we are a fully fledged 360 platform for esports. We do events, we produce tournaments, produce contents, we organize events for clients, game developers, and any of our partners that's interested in this area. And our latest foray into esports, right now we manage talents of esports, particularly streamers for esports. So that's how we got into esports. We didn't know what it was 5 years ago. We took the leap, and today it's huge. I'm quite glad that we got a foot in the door. Then here we are, 5 years later, doing great things, enjoying it. So there are many opportunities for brands to connect with esports fans in the form of sponsorship, advertising, and all that. We've done many events locally and regionally, and you can see the engagement with the fans. And some of our clients on events, which I'll go into later, you can see very huge engagement and activation with these esports fans.
So talking about, because like the word esports, obviously it just makes you think about how sports has been this year. And for example, as a mini Liverpool fan myself, it was very heartbreaking to see them win the championship and have almost no one in the stadium, right? But which is funny because on esports, I think this year the number of spectators majorly increased. So can you tell us a bit more about what the gaming industry is like post-COVID compared to pre-COVID, and why this should matter to marketeers?
Esport is naturally digital. So before COVID, we have events at stadiums and venues, and you can see that lots of fans come to the events to support the teams, to support the players and all that. But because it started off as a digital on a digital platform, so online tournaments is still ongoing, and it's not an issue, and we are still able to connect with the same audiences. I also like to bring out a point that if you look at post-COVID and pre-COVID, you'll see the introduction of esports to the more casual sports fans, people that like football, Formula One, and all that. In March, everything stopped, and what these other rights holder like sports associations like Formula One or Premier League, they said we can't have the events. We can't have the real events. Why don't we have the electronic version of those events? So Formula One came up with virtual F1, huge viewership. It's about 30 million worldwide when they came up with virtual F1. Although it's not a real race, but there's some real the real drivers driving behind it. And then the Premier League came up with E-Premier League, the fans representing the teams, as a fan representing Liverpool. And then there are other fans as well, professional football players getting into it behind it, and then it creates such engagement to the new casual fans that, hey, what is this event that I've not seen before?
Yeah.
So that brought esport to the fore, like an introduction to the traditional fans. I'm glad that this opportunity came on, and then hence the introduction to esports to a lot of casual sports fans took place. In terms of the lockdown, it has also increased playing time as well as viewership, not just for tournaments and live streamers, but as well as content creator as well. A lot of people play games during the lockdown, many citing reasons like escapism, socializing, with their friends online. That's the main reason for playing.
Yep.
And then you can interact with your friends, even though you can't go out and all that. You can see that between the lockdown and pre-lockdown and post-lockdown, the playing time of games have increased by 40% during lockdown. So with this happening, and with the traditional sports having to go the electronic way of bringing their events to live, you see the growth in viewership and esport during this COVID-19 period.
Yes, it's true. I mean, definitely, like you mentioned, all these traditional sports also taking on an online format. But the truth is, esports has existed as an online gaming gaming arena for such a long time. But it's only now becoming something that marketers are thinking of looking into opportunities for. And I think one of the things that they're unsure of is the behavior and just the gaming audience, and what are their attitudes towards brands. Are they more protective of this like ad-free situation, or are they open for advertisers and marketers to insert their brands into this? So I think it would be kind of useful for you to explain what marketers and advertisers should know about the gaming audience and their attitude toward brands.
Let's look at the simple general demographic of esport fan, for example. They're generally young, among the average age of 25 to 26. It's quite finely balanced, about 50-50, depends on the region, male and female as well. And most of them like technology, what else? Music, movies, as well, and F&B. So that's the general demographic of esport fan. Mm-hmm. And the esport audiences, they do have significant spending power, because at that age, they're probably going into their first jobs. And they are so willing to commit more time and attention to watching esport or viewing esports, or even participating or playing video games. Some of them play the games, some don't, some just watch, but it's just like traditional sports. They follow a favorite team, a favorite player, and they also attend tournaments. They are also a very demanding bunch of people. Sponsors must really connect to them in a very authentic way. You have to be genuine with them, and you can't try to fit like square peg into round hole per se, in case you are not able to connect with them. You can't force it into them. If the fans will see it as this is not authentic, and then it's a big push off. Mm-hmm. So, but like I said, there are also casual fans because of the worldwide introduction of esports to the world during the lockdown. Formula One, we have 30 million viewers across TV and digital platform. We even carry those events, and we have very high viewership on it. And I can also mention that in terms of the persona of this esports fan, they spend a lot of time to watch and play, and also own some of the games they play. Mm-hmm. There are some that's really hardcore in the game. They spend a lot of money in terms of upgrading their PC, buying a new console. And there are also the really casual fans like me. I don't play online, I play offline because I like to play video games with a good storyline and stuff like that. So there are many different kind of persona for esport, and for a brand to look at what their product and services are, they have to fit it properly with these groups, as well as the different type of games in esports. There are many games in esports. They are the first-person shooter, they are the sports simulation games like FIFA, and then there are the mobile games like League of Legends, Dota, and then the biggest trend right now is mobile gaming, because PC and consoles are very expensive to own, but everyone has a mobile game. So the trend of that is coming up. Let me give you an example. Like global mobile games revenue in 2019 is about 68.5 billion US dollars. Global mobile game players in 2019, it's 2.3 billion all around the world. And a very interesting fact is 900 million of these 2.3 billion mobile game players actually spend money buying in-game purchases, in-game items, and stuff like that. So that's almost like more than around 40% of these people do spend money. They have spending power, but they will only spend it on stuff that is relevant to them, relevant to their psyche.
So those are humongous numbers, right? And I think that's also one of the reasons it's taking so much attention right now. Would you say at all that maybe the window for advertisers and marketers to capitalize on is slowly closing, or is that not correct?
It's closing in terms of, sorry?
So I'm just wondering if like there was this like prime period for people to get on, brands and marketers to get on, and would you say that window is closing due to authenticity requirements, etc., or is no?
In fact, it's just the beginning.
Okay.
In Southeast Asia, at least, still a lot of room for improvement. Like you mentioned before, like there are a lot of brands out there that look at esport and want to activate in the area of esport, but they are not sure, they don't have the right strategy and all that. So we're just in the beginning of this trend, and there's definitely a lot of opportunities, and we find more and more case studies. There are plenty of case studies in the Western world, but in Malaysia, we're getting, Southeast Asia, we're getting more and more case studies coming out for how brands and advertisers benefit from esports. So there is not a closing period for it. In fact, it's the best period to get in.
Okay, so that's a good point to start speaking about the specifics. Now that I think you've given a pretty good idea on like the scene and the people who are using esports, etc. But how would you describe the gaming, esports and the gaming as an advertising medium, and what opportunities exist within esports advertising, specifically in APAC?
There are a few areas that brands and advertisers can get into esports. The few obvious one is to sponsor professional teams. You advertise through a content platform like EGG Network, venue sponsorship, events, malls and tournaments, hotel traveling teams. I think, but the more important bit is the activation that you do around all this sponsorship and advertising. The other one that I want to bring forward also is right now there's a lot of new trend of sponsoring live streamers or content creators. EGG Network is actually we are partner of Facebook Gaming. We provide about 270 talents to Facebook Gaming, and these streamers stream multiple hours on Facebook Gaming. And in fact, the Malaysian market for Facebook Gaming is probably 4th globally in terms of revenue for Facebook Gaming, plus revenue for the streamers. I give you a few examples how big these streamers are. There's a few that's under our portfolio. Our top streamer is this guy named Solos. He has 1.9 million followers. Our top female streamer is Sis Abby. She got 700,000 followers. And a live concurrent view for a single live stream by the top streamer is about 120,000 live views concurrently. And we have a recent peak of about 700,000 average daily hours watched across Malaysian streams under EGG. In April 2020, let's talk about streamers as well. The people that actually watch the streamers has actually donated or gifted the streamers like a tip, close to over US $200,000 to the streamers. That's in only 1 month. This is a growing market that we're going in. We also, because we have the Astro group behind us, this is part of our portfolio for advertising, and we have done some branded content with our streamers as well.
Okay. And how about marketeers? I mean, people who are listening to this, especially the marketeers, those numbers that you just mentioned are very impressive. So what kind of opportunities lie for marketeers within the esports or the in-game advertising scene? And maybe this is also a good chance for you to share some of examples of successful and unsuccessful case studies, specifically brands who've used esports to market or advertise.
Our biggest case study, the most popular case study, most successful, sorry, is the KL major that we held 2 years back. Our sponsors were U-Mobile, and then we have KFC for the KL major. The level of engagement with the fans was quite phenomenal. They spent about 12 hours daily at the stadium. It was held at the Axiata Arena, indoor stadium in Bukit Jalil. It's a 3-day event. And then we had KFC set up there, and they sold out every day. We had also a lot of advertisers as well as sponsors that for the first time went to Axiata Arena, and they were really surprised at what they saw. Mm-hmm. We invited a few potential sponsors and advertisers to the event, and they were like, okay, let me see what this is about. And for the first time, they get to see in real life, how they were like 8,000 cheering people in the stadium watching, 5 versus another 5 guys playing video games. They couldn't believe it, mm-hmm. And they're willing to spend money, merchandises were sold out and things like that. So, it is important for a sponsor during that time that they really activated well at the venue, plus at the campaign end. So it provided them with opportunity for them to build fans at the venue, as well as with the campaign online. And it's borderless as well, because they also attracted fans from outside of Malaysia as well. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned before, the streamers that we handle, we have done branded content with them. Some of it like Nescafe, mobile phones, and so personal care brands, and F&B as well. And on the international front, there's many. Call of Duty had a tie-up with F&B outlet where if they reach a certain score, a voucher will pop up on your screen, and then you can go redeem your free taco or burritos or
nice.
Whatever, mm-hmm. So there are many examples. PUBG tie-up with Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew actually have a vending machine in the game in PUBG, and you can collect those canned drinks, and then you win some prizes. And we can also see more and more cases of games tying up with movies. For example, Call of Duty tie up with those horror movie Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Saw, where players can actually buy skins of the characters of the movies and play in the game. So there are many examples, but I think at least in Malaysia, we are starting to see it moving forward, and it is very interesting to see more and more non-endemic brand. Non-endemic brand meaning brand that's not related to so-called video games or technology. In fact, if you look at the worldwide market, non-endemic brand sponsorship make up of 60% of the total sponsorship for esports. Endemic brands means IT brands like Intel, Razer and all that, but non-endemic brands could be like Mercedes, McDonald's, KFC and all that. So this area is growing. You can see the non-endemic brand ratio coming up. So it's definitely something for a lot of brands to ponder.
Would you maybe able to share with us some examples of case studies that were a little bit unsuccessful? Maybe you don't have to mention the brand's names, just so people have an idea when they're thinking of strategies like, okay, this doesn't work, for example.
Okay, I mean, I shouldn't mention any brand name, but like I say, the activation and campaign has to be authentic. Esport fans, they know it when they see a brand try to maybe hard sell or try to force it in a way that it seems exploitative to the esport fan. Once that happens, it's very difficult for the brand to get back the affinity with these esport fans. They are a bit quite unforgiving, if you ask me. Yeah, because they will just go to social media and rant, and that's it. Let's say you build affinity with esport community, and then it can be destroyed in moments. Okay. So you have to be very careful about how you build that sort of authenticity. Okay. It can't be forced. It has to be done progressively, and it has to be natural and organic.
So I was wondering if you would be able to share maybe some final thoughts and tips maybe to people who are listening. Any final takeaways?
I think esport right now, it's really on a growing trend. Don't be afraid to look at it. I think at least in Southeast Asia is a good area for you to come in, because there's still a lot of room for opportunities that we can build. And if you look at esport as, how do I say it, as a virtual sports per se, this also gives an opportunity for people that are not able to do activation or campaigning at live events, at venues and all that to come in. Online event works as well, And I also want to mention that even though the audience is growing and all, one particularly area that's really growing, I mentioned before, is mobile games. The barrier to entry for this is quite low at now. And even though with this pandemic and lockdown, esport is digital natively. So we can actually collect good data for, for demographic targeting and all that. And all brands can be relevant to esport. There are examples like even DHL has come on board to partner with esport event at ESL, as well as MasterCard has also come in to League of Legends events. So it's quite varied, and there is something for everyone in esports, I would say. So the time is right now. You can start right now, and there's a lot of opportunities out there.
I know I for sure definitely learned a lot more about esports than I did coming in. And I just wanted to those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, feel free to comment in the below, I guess, right here. And if CK has the time, he'll be responding to your questions personally.
Any comments or questions, do send it to us. We're more than happy to answer it.
Thank you, CK, and thank you everyone watching. And stay tuned for the next speaking session.
Thank you.
So that's
Bye-bye.
It's now time to bring on our last speaker for this year's conference, the CEO of AirAsia.com, Karen Chan. Karen actually joined AirAsia in March of 2019 as Group Chief Commercial Officer for the airline before she was appointed CEO in December of the same year. In her role as CEO, she is responsible for transforming AirAsia into the fastest growing travel tech and lifestyle platform in ASEAN that offers a frictionless and personalized experience to consumers. As an MMC guest speaker, Karen will be sharing her own experience adapting to the new travel world. The time's yours, Karen, whenever you're ready.
Holidays have always been a click away. But why stop there? Today, you can do so much more. You can go further. You can be more stylish, more adventurous, more daring. crafty? More fancy? Just do you. You can eat more, get fresh food straight from the source, or try something new. Click to pay, and boom, delivered straight to your home. You can spend more and gain way more. No matter who you are or where you are, there's so much more to experience with AirAsia.com, the ASEAN super app.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Chan, CEO of AirAsia.com. Very honored to be part of Malaysia Media Conference to share with you AirAsia.com's journey from an ASEAN airline to become the fastest growing ASEAN super app. I want to take this opportunity to go and thank you, Prof. Han, for giving me this chance to join this virtual conference. In the next half hour or so, allow me to share with you, firstly, how AirAsia is pivoting from an airline to a travel and lifestyle platform play, powered by data and technology. How AirAsia is also rethinking our product office, our customer experience, and what they want in this new reality. And finally, how AirAsia is proactively reigniting travel, even if it's domestic for the time being, through digitized, sanitized travel experience. If we go to the next slide, I'm sure when many of you are asked, what does AirAsia stand for? This image of great-looking crew with perfect grooming, affordable flights, exotic destinations will come to mind. And that's what we are. We built our brand 19 years ago as a challenger brand to disrupt the full-service carriers, to go and democratize air travel so that now everyone can fly. We are now the largest low-cost carrier in ASEAN and the fourth largest in Asia. We had about 275 aircraft before COVID. Now we have a few lesser aircraft, but we actually flew over 100 million passengers last year in 2019. We are the largest airline for inbound into China and Indonesia. We are already covering third and fourth tier markets in both these countries, including Philippines as well. And of the 400 plus routes that we cover, over 25% of them are actually unique routes, whereby only AirAsia is the only carrier going in. And this gives us a great advantage in how we can start leveraging and grow beyond just flights to offer other travel complementary line of products. And for AirAsia.com to be more than an airline and to become ASEAN Super App, our platform has to be a way of life. It's all about connecting. And it's no longer just about connecting people to destination. It is about connecting people to people as well, where community meets e-commerce, bringing people together for everyone, so that now everyone can fly, everyone can shop, everyone can eat, all in the convenience of one-stop shop portal to satisfy all the consumer needs. AirAsia.com will now be a unified platform across both travel and lifestyle through 3 business verticals: travel related to become a better OTA, e-commerce providing last mile fulfillment and home delivery, as well as finance led, from issuing big points, from having a digital wallet and big exchange for points exchange. All of this will be underpinned by our media group, whereby we can start having much more effective advertising and data monetization. Now, some of you may ask, Karen, how can you be a super app when there's a lot of other incumbents already in ASEAN? The right to believe and our right to win is because we already have a lot of rich data, aggregated and built over 19 years for becoming an airline. We have over 40 million unique visitors on a monthly basis coming to AirAsia.com. We have close to 80 million database, touching not just flight, but also looking at duty-free, utilizing Big Pay and redeeming big points. And across all our 8 AOCs, we now have over 50 million social media followers. Let me quickly touch on travel. Many people will say, Karen, what do you think you can do when there's a lot of strong OTAs already in ASEAN? Our secret weapon is our ability to go and bundle different travel-related products with our flight. We are the only OTA that we can proudly claim to be an OTA with metal. What does that mean? AirAsia.com is the only OTA that actually has an airline. Right now, it might be a bit of a liability, but what that actually enables us is that we are able to go and bundle our flight, whereby we control the final pricing and we know the yield curve 365 days out with all the other activities. Allow me to give you an example. Snap. Snap is basically flight bundled with hotel. The reason why we have been so successful, and I'll share some of the data later on, is because nobody else, no other OTA can actually go and price control 365 days out across every single sector, across every single route. For example, AirAsia has 13 flights between Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. Obviously, the first flight and the last flight will never be full because it's too early in the morning and too late in the evening for customers to book that. We might have an 85% load factor. What that actually means is that on an A320, we will still have 23 to about 28 seats not filled. These are the unsold seats that now I can actually sell for 1 ringgit or 25 cents. And I then go and bundle it with a hotel that I've directly sourced so that I can go into the market. Best price guarantee. No other OTA would be able to go and do that consistently across 365 days, every single day, across every single segment. That is one of the big initiatives and the reason for winning in the OTA market. Another product that we are very proud of and that we have just launched is AirAsia Health. We are now able to go and offer customers a completely online, from initial consultation to basically booking the medical treatment that you're looking at, all the way to organizing your flight, hotel, on-ground logistics, translators, and also a companion to go and take you to all the different hospitals and clinics, all in the convenience of AirAsia.com. We just soft launched that last week, and we are doing a major launch in November. Watch this space. We have already signed up with 17 different hospitals in Malaysia, and we are now already in close negotiation for the biggest hospital group in India, in Thailand, and we are also expanding into Korea in Q1 2021. In terms of e-commerce, what we have actually done is that now we have pivoted our cargo. In the past, it's all about cross-border cargo. Now we've pivoted to become the last mile fulfillment logistics provider, not only for food delivery. We just launched Fresh, and I'll share some of the exciting numbers with you, as well as duty free. As you can imagine, because international borders are still closed, a lot of consumers who would love to go and buy their cosmetics, their favorite drinks as part of the duty free, now we are able to go and deliver duty free all the way to your home. Finally, on the finance-led piece, we have now got one click checkout payments using BigPay. Not only can you actually go and pay with cash, now you can actually go and purchase across all the 15 line of business using points as a currency. And going to the next slide. What I have shared is not just narrative. We have already expanded all the 15 line of business across ASEAN in different stages. As we all know, in the post-COVID environment, consumers are looking for flexibility because we just don't know when the borders will open and when there would be different sort of requirements for COVID testing and also quarantine. So that's why ease of use is paramount as we start looking at re-stimulating travel. So what we have actually launched, and I'm sure a lot of you have also heard, is basically our AirAsia Unlimited Flight Pass. What this is basically you buy now and you can go and fly as many times as you want for the rest of the year. We've already launched that for Malaysia, as well as domestic Thailand. And next month, we will be launching domestic Indonesia and also Philippines. We have got tremendous success because people actually see value. When we look at normal frequency for domestic travel, it's about 3 to 4 times. Now, because a lot of customers have purchased the Cuti Cuti Malaysia pass, we have actually seen some avid travelers booking up to 22 times using this particular pass. So far, we have sold over 200,000 passes just for Malaysia and for Thailand. And I think we are expecting similar results as we actually expand to Indonesia and Philippines. Another thing that we have also launched is basically the line of business called Snap, flight and hotel bundled together. What's amazing is that over COVID, we always talk about never waste a crisis. In the past, a lot of the 4- and 5-star hotels, they may not actually want to go and talk to us. Now, over the COVID lockdown in the past 3 months, we've been able to sign up 450 hotel chains across Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, and Philippines. And what we are able to do is that we are able to go and use Wednesday, a crazy special sale day for Snap. So one of the initiatives that we did about a month ago is that we actually sell flights and with a 5-star hotel in Langkawi, and we were able to go and sell 2,000 room nights in 4 hours on one Wednesday. That was a record sale for this particular 5-star hotel. So that's all about having flexibility and ease of use. Now, as we really talk about becoming an ASEAN super app, how do we go and drive velocity beyond travel? As I just mentioned, majority of the frequency for customers coming to our site to search for flight is about 4 to 5 times. How do we actually go and start building weekly habit of coming onto airasia.com to go and browse for different deals? That's where we start launching our e-commerce platform. As I mentioned, we have been doing duty-free home delivered. Anytime, anywhere you want to shop for duty-free, we would be able to go and home deliver for you. We have been running a lot of aggressive promotion, whether it's the 9.9, the 10.10 that just passed, and also ongoing thematics, Korean cosmetics, Japanese cosmetics. So we have been able to go and get stickiness for driving shop, AirAsia duty-free. We have also just started launching food as well as fresh delivery of grocery, whether it's potatoes and zucchini or whether it's actually restaurant delivery food. Now we would be able to deliver in Klang Valley within 1 hour. And going to the next slide. All this will be now underpinned by our EdTech. We have our own programmatic desk within airasia.com. And when we talk about utilization of airasia.com, a lot of people might just be thinking about our homepage. airasia.com actually have 40,000 pages. We are now able to go and use our big data to go and serve targeted ads based on the consumer browsing and purchasing behavior in the past. For instance, if we know that this particular customer has been searching for flights going to Japan, we are now able to go and serve Japanese-related advertising, whether it's a Shinkansen pass or whether it's a particular hotel in Osaka, purely based on the data that we have on the search history of that particular customer. And media is not just about online. We are really the only one that can actually have omni-channel coverage. We are able to go and have livery, marketing using our plane, inside our plane, as well as our online portal airasia.com, plus also on ground. We basically cover about 80% of the KLIA2 airport. So there's a lot of advertising and also a lot of Wi-Fi touch points that we are able to leverage using airasia.com. And of course, also our in-flight Wi-Fi services so that we can actually serve different content, different data to different customer groups. Talking about how we are rethinking and transforming our business, I'd like to go and share some case studies of how airasia.com has been able to pivot from just becoming an airline to also now focusing on supporting local businesses and supporting communities during this difficult time. AirAsia's DNA has always been about supporting local communities and small individual businesses. That's how we started the budget carrier, so that now everybody can fly. AirAsia.com's DNA is the same. As we all understand, during the COVID lockdown, in Malaysia and I'm sure in other parts of the region as well, local businesses, especially small business owners, have faced unprecedented hardships. SME is actually the backbone for the Malaysia nation, contributing close to 40% of GDP and over 66% of employment. What we have actually done, if you can go to the next slide, is that we have launched a campaign called In This Together, because we recognize the importance of small, medium businesses to this nation. Based on the research that we have done in conjunction with Google and also with Nielsen, we realized that during the lockdown period, consumer purchase intent has pivoted and transformed from basically going out to basically staying at home because they can't actually go out during the lockdown. So we started thinking about how can we actually promote home delivery, build up last mile logistics and fulfillment capability so that we can start connecting a lot of the small business owners who used to just be physical retailers to become e-tailer and connect to consumers. If we go to the next slide. What we have actually done in the beginning of the lockdown is that we have pivoted our e-commerce portal that were actually selling duty-free perfume cosmetics to now basically selling potatoes and carrots. We have over a 1-month period rebased the entire platform so that we can start onboarding instead of big multinational duty-free players to basically allowing small local merchants to be able to go and upload their products, upload their different SKUs so that we can start opening our portal for 2,000 different local merchants to be able to go and sell their own produce to our customers. As you can imagine, a lot of these retailers have never sold online before. We are talking about farmers, fishermen who have no idea of making a frozen snapper Instagram worthy. And the good thing is that because of our AirAsia.com ecosystem and because of our media group, we have 120 creative designers, asset content creators to go and actually assist these fishermen and farmers to go and basically redo their visual assets, touch up, teaching the merchants how to write up enticing product description for corn and tomatoes. On the back end, we also need to go and have a major overhaul. When we deal with big cosmetic companies, you can imagine payment terms as T plus 60. Imagine when you talk to fishermen and farmers, they are expecting T plus 1, T plus 2. So there's a lot of things that we have to do with the finance team as well to ensure that payments are now on basically a daily basis. Going to the next slide. When we talk about rethinking and reigniting, it is not just about the commercial platform. It is also about our own community, what we call All Stars, our employees, because we value all of our employees. Basically, they are the rock stars, especially the frontline people. As you can imagine, with the downturn in the aviation industry and international borders are still being closed, we need to go and look after our crew. We need to go and start repurposing a lot of our crew, a lot of our ground engineers, our ground operators, to go and reskill them and to also go and give them different job opportunities. And that's where the pivot comes from. As we start looking at e-commerce, e-commerce is underpinned by delivery. For us to actually go and scale and accelerate fast, we started repurposing a lot of our cabin crew, a lot of our ground operators and pilots were even volunteering as well to become drivers, to become pick and packers in our warehouse so that we can actually go and do both dry delivery as well as food delivery and fresh delivery. Here we got two classic examples. William and Jack, they are both former cabin crew who are now joining basically our teleport delivery team. We have already onboarded 1,200 delivery partners over the lockdown period. And if we talk about cargo flights for teleport, we have already done 1,000 cargo charters to go and deliver medical aid across the entire ASEAN. The other human piece is not just about our people, it's also about our customers, the local businesses that we are trying to onboard. And I'd like to share with you that for a lot of the local businesses who are selling on our platform, we are not charging commission. We just want to go and basically be an available partner for them during this tough time. And that's why we launched a campaign called SOS, Save Our Shops. As you can imagine, a lot of the physical retailers cannot pay rent anymore. So we are basically offering them a free e-commerce portal. And this is another story, and these are real stories. These two sisters, Shamini and Shamala, they are the founders of something called the Potion Skincare. And their USP is that skincare that is so pure that you can actually eat it. This is just one story. We have other stories whereby there's a particular teacher, and she's basically a closet master chef. And now she's selling a lot of her brownies on our site as well. We continue to onboard and we continue to encourage local small businesses to contact us so that we can actually sell unique products that are basically made in Malaysia, and then we can actually sell it to the world, loved by the world. We have over 500% increase in the sales of food and grocery over the Super Sale week last week. And our AirAsia shop, the duty-free shop, sales increased by over 700% because now we are enabling home delivery powered by our own crew and our own delivery drivers. Another aspect, if we go to the community slide, is that we also believe in giving back and supporting community. eClass.com is basically the Islamic version of AirAsia.com, providing both Muslim travel and also a lot of halal products to the Islamic community. One area that eClass started doing over the COVID period was basically a donation drive, a charity drive. We actually donated 32,000 meals to multiple disadvantaged communities within the entire Malaysia, setting up soup kitchens, visiting orphanages. And here what you can see is that we were also doing care parcels, delivering to the Orang Asli family in conjunction with Kelas Rimba, an educational program dedicated for the Orang Asli community. AirAsia's #1 focus is to ensure the health and safety, not only of our passenger, but also of our crew, so that not only one can fly, but everyone can fly safely. We have been working very closely with government authorities, with different strategic partners, so that we are not talking about digitized and sanitized travel just for AirAsia alone, but for the entire travel industry. We have instigated measures and precautions across both pre-flight, at the airport for contactless kiosks and automated baggage check-in, all the way to in-flight. Crew will be making sure that every single traveler will need to have their temperatures screened, everybody have masks, proper sanitization of the aircraft, and also ensuring that we minimize contact with our customers by having pre-advanced order for food, and all the way to post-flight. After every single flight, there will be deep cleansing of the aircraft and proper cabin sterilization. AirAsia is doing everything we can to ensure that people can now travel safely again. Thank you very much for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of MMC Tuesdays. Personally, for me, it's been a fun and inspiring 4 weeks and a pleasure hosting you every Tuesday. Before I log off for the day, I'd like to once again thank our presenting sponsor, Omnia, for supporting us as we embark on our first virtual conference. I'd also like to thank our media partners who have been with us throughout the years, specifically The Edge, Malaysia Kini, and BFM. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you'd like to re-watch any of the past 4 sessions. Today's session will be up in about an hour. And with all that said, I guess I hope to see you guys again soon, either physically or virtually at our next event. Until then, everyone, stay safe, stay calm, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.